right, well, I think we will kick it off, and as people join us, they can just hop in. So I'm Laura Matana. I'm the Executive Director of Compassionate Action for Animals, and Wholesome Minnesota is one of our programs that, to put it in its most simple form, helps bring plant-based food to cafeterias. And the program started back in really about in 2018 with volunteers. So Julie Knopp, who's on our board, helped get it launched along with myself. And it kind of stayed in that volunteer form for a bit as we worked, and then as we had successes, we got, a volunteer got her company to start serving plant-based food at her workplace and got it added to their insurance program as an option for people to, get a discount if they did their Meatless Monday kind of thing. Richfield started doing, at that point, it was vegetarian meals. And then we were able to get funding to be able to hire staff. So that happened in 2020. And then Jody came over and took over the program in 2021 and has really expanded it exponentially in terms of its connection with students and connection with just national organizations and with nutrition directors across the state. So I'm just delighted that she is on staff and with us and leading this work. And I'm going to turn it over to her to tell you more about what's happening with the program.
Thanks, Laura. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for taking time out of your Saturday to be with us today to be involved in this really important work. So I'm going to just jump right in and kind of talk about what Wholesome is. Okay, I'm trying to move my screen. Here we go. What Wholesome is, who I am, why I'm passionate about this, and then kind of what the kind of state of things is right now, and where we see some opportunities, where there are places for improvement, and just to try to get some ideas from our community, because we know if we put our brains together, we can tackle this issue better than Laura and I sitting around and brainstorming ourselves. So let's get started. I'm Jody. I work for Wholesome Minnesota, but I'm also a health and wellness coach. I've done a lot of education in plant-based nutrition, so I'm like in it to win it. I love this work. I love working for CAA. This is like the best job I've ever had, and I really want this to be a success. I started focusing on school food at Wholesome. We were like, when I started, we were kind of focused on a lot of different directions, and then COVID hit. And really, we were looking at the opportunity of where we could really spend our time and make the most of it. And school food seemed to be a really great place. One, because they were serving a lot of food still. And then it has all these other benefits, which you probably all know. So I'm not going to read through that. But I wanted to show you this video quick.
The answer might surprise you. The food served in schools has a huge climate impact, and having more plant-based options can make a big difference. Food production is driving more than 1/3 of the world's greenhouse gas emissions, and production of animal foods has the biggest agricultural impact on our climate. Beef alone has 15 to 100 times the carbon footprint of beans and lentils. Plus, most animal agriculture operations pollute the air and water in local communities, especially communities of color. With billions of meals served in U.S. schools every year, school food can be a powerful tool for fighting climate change. Having more plant-based options at school is also an important part of building racial equity and serving culturally relevant foods. Most people of color cannot digest lactose, and many traditional diets around the world are plant-based. Students who don't or can't eat animal products because of their health, culture, religion, or personal beliefs should have the right to a healthy plant-based meal at school. Take action now. Your voice and your choices matter. Ask for more plant-based options in your cafeteria and help spread the word today.
So as Laura mentioned, we've made a lot of strides in terms of national partnerships. So that video was really the work of a lot of organizations coming together. It was really organized by Friends of the Earth. And then a lot of us all got together and just sort of gave our opinion and ideas around that video. But I use that in schools for advocacy when I'm working with students to help them understand why school food is so important and why in particular plant-based food kind of checks a lot of boxes. So you are part of this puzzle that we're trying to figure out. And again, just thank you so much for being here. So I just wanted to run through like kind of our key talking points when we talk to school administrators, nutrition directors, teachers, et cetera, that kind of get me into the schools and able to have these conversations. We focus on children's health, one. We look at like how powerful the swap can be. So this is an example of changing a chow mein from a beef chow mein to a plant-based chow mein and being able to really show like the impact environmentally. We can also do cost savings. We kind of choose what is going to be most impactful to that person who we're talking to. So we really customize our message based upon what we know is important to the stakeholder that we're talking to. We also talk a lot about inclusivity, and that's become more and more important as we're moving through life. Really looking at allergies, religion, the younger generation in particular, and communities of color. We really talk about this a ton now, and people are really glomming onto this message. So this is sort of the idea or what I have been using in a lot of the presentations that I do when I talk to students and all the other stakeholders is basically saying that young people are driving this trend. And I have no doubt that these numbers are correct. But what we're finding right now is that there seems to be a disconnect between these studies and what's actually happening, at least in Minnesota schools, because the districts that are offering plant-based, whether it has been through, having some contact with Wholesome and doing some work with us, or they're doing it on their own, they all are reporting that there's just very little demand for plant-based meals. And very specifically, our work with Richfield Public Schools, they made the pledge to go 20% plant-based. I think it was by this year or next year. And then this year, I had a call with them right at the beginning of the school year, and they have unpledged, basically saying that the students just aren't taking it. There's just waste, nobody wants it, et cetera, et cetera. And I want to just also say that this is a really amazing school nutrition director who I trust, and he's wonderful to work with. He is an omnivore, but he believes that people need to be eating more plants. He thinks that this is like an emerging taste profile. He's just a very innovative, great food service director. So this is like that. This was definitely a shock to me in this work. So the goal of this session is basically to kind of figure out maybe what we could do if we put our brains together. And I just want to quick kind of run through sort of a little bit of a SWOT analysis to kind of chat through this. So this is kind of what the existing school lunch program looks like. There's a limited plant-based options. We have government subsidies. We have really traditional menus. And I should say that's shifting quite a bit. We're seeing a lot of more cultural appropriateness happening, and that being important with schools. Again, that's an opportunity then for plant-based. But I will just kind of go through this quickly so we can just get onto our conversation. There's been some difficulty with procurement and distribution. The budget has been an issue, especially around meat analogs, like our Impossible or Beyond type products that are formulated for schools. They're expensive and they're hard to get. Margins are small, and there just can't be waste. There's some stigma around meat analogs that we're finding with particular districts that want to commit more to scratch cooking, and the idea of putting a fake meat product and something that they just don't think is healthy or good for the kids. There's some stigma around that. For some districts, it's not a problem. For others, it is. So we have some resistance from stakeholders. There are still staffing challenges as well. So a lot of the school lunchrooms are understaffed, and they just don't have the people capacity to really get this stuff out. And also around staffing, there is very little there is very little culinary training that's happening. A lot of the people that work in the school lunchrooms, it's not like the old days where there was kind of a commitment to feeding kids. A lot of people that are there for a paycheck, not necessarily for the mission. We have some allergen issues. We have some perception about vegans. We have USDA requirements. So you may or may not know that schools are required to serve a specific meal pattern in order to be reimbursed. So Kids can't just simply go into a line and just choose like the 3 items they want. They actually have to choose, like they have to have a protein, they have to have whole grains, they have to have fruits, vegetables, and there's a specific meal pattern that's set up depending on the age of the student. And it's the same for all Minnesota public schools. We also have CN labeling, which is child nutrition labeling, and it's a really rigorous and time-consuming process for the manufacturers who would be creating these goods to sell to kids or to sell to schools. So that's kind of a thing with regards to the meat analog products in particular. Of course, we don't really have to deal with that if people are serving like brown rice and legumes, but we see that there's a lot more interest in these analogs. And then a few opportunities, and this is where we're going to probably spend the most of our time around nutritional education, collaboration with farmers, menu diversification, environmental wellness, advocacy and policy change, culinary development, and et cetera. So what I think we should probably move on to doing is kind of move into our brainstorming or brain writing section. I'm going to just transition here and put up a like a spreadsheet for us to work from, and we'll all can put our ideas in. So let me just quick do that.
And one thing that I'm not sure you highlighted as much, but Jody has been doing a lot of work actually directly with students in 2 ways. One is she's been doing work in family and consumer science, I believe it's called now. What it was home ec when I was growing up, classes where the students themselves cook. And there's been a lot of enthusiasm, from the students in these presentations, almost universally. And then she also has been working with green teams at various schools, and that's like the environmental clubs. That's sort of what they call them now in the high school. So she's been meeting with green teams around the metro area, and those students have then played a very active role in reaching out to other students and or administrators. And those efforts have also been very successful. So Bloomington students got black bean burgers introduced by going to their school board. They kind of had a long campaign that led to that. And there's another district, which is I'm blanking on right now, Jody, where the students have done quite a bit and been quite active in reaching out to peers.
There's Bloomington. I do have like a bit of an update too around Richfield. I'm expecting some advocacy around Richfield with the students. I just did a presentation last week with them, and I pretty much implored the green team and said, hey, if you want this to stay in your school, I need your help. And I think I've got some, we're working on some strategies to get things restarted there. So, but we had some success going to, certain environmental clubs will just go in. It's a really interesting space to work in because you have some nutrition directors where the students just go to them and say, hey, we'd like to get a plant-based option, at lunch, like maybe in the burger line or something. And then they'll just do it. Like within 3 weeks, there's now a black bean burger in the line. And then there's others that just say, no. So it's a really interesting, it really depends on the people that you're dealing with. It's just it's just a unique situation, just kind of like anything, where if you're a decision maker, you get to decide. So, okay. So can everyone see this Excel spreadsheet? Okay. So what I thought we would do is, so just kind of go through a spreadsheet, and here I kind of listed our general talking points. And if anyone has any other ideas, so I want to also say that these are our general talking points. We don't typically talk about animal welfare because that is a place where people really butt heads and people feel judged. That has been our experience. So we only bring that up as sort of a secondary message that will come up like when I'm talking sort of in general and all of the benefits. we will add that kind of in there, but these are the top kind of general talking points. And if anybody has anything else that they think would be really interesting to add there, I would love for you to pop it in there. But generally, this is kind of where we speak, or what we speak towards. And then down here, I've listed sort of opportunities, tactics, and then a how. And then up above, there's a number. So I'm wondering if, we could maybe go around and have everybody have a number. And you can either put your name in that spot. It's very up on the top where it says Wholesome Minnesota Brainstorm. There's a number up there. And if you want to put your name there, or if you just want to keep it a number or a symbol or something like that, and because you just want to kind of be anonymous, that's cool. But I thought then you could kind of put your ideas then in that column as we go through, just to keep things organized. Does that sound good? Anybody have any questions?
I have a couple of questions. Sorry about background noise. One is I don't have edit access. Could you change it so everybody can edit it?
Anyone with the link? Yep. Thank you, Abby.
Awesome, thank you. I was also just sort of wondering concretely, like what 20% plant-based in Richfield looked like. Like, do they have vegetarian options that aren't fully plant-based that people are taking? Was it like one option every single day, or was there one day where it was like plant-based? Or could you talk more about what that was like on the ground?
Yeah, no, it wasn't 100% plant-based day. It would pop in and out. And he was doing it quite often. So I think it maybe in some weeks was more than 20%, and then other weeks not at all. What I did find out from the students this last week was some of the ideas they had was, they said that the plant-based stuff was actually off to the side. And that was something that he and I discussed at the very beginning, that plant-based was going to be integrated into the general lines, because plant-based food is for everyone. It's not just for the vegans and vegetarians, or if you have an allergy or something. Like, the curry is for anybody that likes curry, so that's something that I'm planning on going back and talking to him about. So I did find that out. So, they weren't hitting numbers perhaps because of that. And then another student was just saying, they put a lot of meat in things that they don't need to. So again, we need to look at substitutions and where he was or wasn't doing that. And if the students knew there were substitutions and there was things actually available. So not the greatest answer, Abby, but that's kind of what I got right now.
Thanks so much.
Yep. Anyone else? Okay. So should we just maybe take